Hey, it is so great to be here with you today. If I haven't met you, my name is Caleb. I preached here a couple times before. I do not live here. I'm originally from Columbia, Missouri, and Kansas City. Dude, good. Yes, there are saved people in this church. I couldn't tell with some of the other services, and Eddie's he's rooting for the 49ers because, well, nobody's perfect. What is that? Anyway, I'm glad to be here with you today. My family and I, we live in Los Angeles because we enjoy not having money and giving it to the government. And her family lives out there, so we're out there. But I really enjoy coming back here. I love Pastor Eddie. You guys love him. I've known him for 13 years. He has been a good friend to me in good seasons and bad seasons and mediocre seasons. You always have those people you can pick up the phone and call, and you trust those people, and Eddie's one of them. You just have a great leadership team here. Just right down in every staff department. I spoke at a conference this fall in Orlando, a leadership conference called Spire, and Melissa Sandel was there, and she's on your staff, and she spoke. And dude, she blew the roof off, and she would never tell you that because she's a humble person, but she did such a good job. You would be proud, and she is an example. Eddie is an example of the kind of stellar leadership and the healthy culture that is at this church. If I lived in this area, this is the church that I would attend. So if you're visiting, I hope that you'll come back. And really, at the movie series, that's a great time for you to be able to come back. So I hope you'll commit to going to every single Sunday, checking it out, bringing a friend, rooting for the Chiefs. I'm worried about some of you, especially some of you in the front row. You're not moving. Anyway, we have been in this series, and you know we're closing it out, this 4-part series called Open and Shut. We're talking about our mouths, our words, what we say, because as somebody who follows Jesus, I believe this, I know Eddie does, and the leadership of this church does, that our words, those of us who follow Jesus, should be words that reflect him, that are kind, that are gracious and humble, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, that's not always the case, right? It really isn't. And if you need an example of that, just think about the fact that this is an election year. Yeah, it's going to be fun as we get closer to November. It's going to be great. I think I'm going to move to another country like Detroit. Kind of like another country. So first week, when Pastor Eddie kicked this off, he talked about upwards and encouraging people, not using our words to rip people down. And then the following week, he talked about downwards and how there's this gravitational pull inside of all of us to focus on ourselves, to boast, to make ourselves look good to others instead of using our words in humble ways to add value to people's lives. And then last week, he talked about fewer words and how less is more. And actually, there's a lot more wisdom in saying less. And you look like you're a smarter person, which you are. You're definitely a wiser person. I was telling my daughter, my 5th grade daughter, about that the other day, about the whole concept of less is more. And she's like, well, Daddy, if less is more, imagine how much more is. Like, yeah, you definitely are an LA kid. Or Texas, one of the two. I can't tell which one. But today we're going to close out this series, and I'm going to get to what we're going to talk about in a second. Before we get there, I want to be able to help you guys, mainly because I want you to live, okay? Some of you are going to be making your travel plans soon if you haven't already, vacations, days off, weekend getaways, going to visit the kids, taking days off. All of a sudden you're like, I'm just going to get sick on March 16th. I can tell already because I have something I need to do. And so, you're planning. There is a place that you should never go. Like, never. Like, if you are on your way to this place, dead serious, sell your ticket or just light it on fire. You should never go to this place, okay? It's an island, just 93 miles off the coast of Brazil. And this island is not that big. It's like a big mountain or a small mountain or a big hill, and that's pretty much the island. Okay? This island is so dangerous that the Brazilian Navy has outlawed anybody from stepping foot on that island. There's a 90% chance if you step foot on this island, you will die. And it's not because of fumes or anything else. It's because of what lives at this island. Some of you hear that, you're like, I'm out immediately. All you have to do is say something lives there, I'm gone, okay? This island is home to a snake that is just unique to this one island, the golden lancehead viper. That should be enough to keep you away right there. If you had to have 3 words to name the snake, it's a bad snake. This snake is so poisonous that when it bites you, its venom actually starts melting your skin. That's how dangerous the venom is. No animals live on the island because they've killed them all, including the lighthouse keeper and his family, but these snakes are in the bushes and the trees, and when birds are migrating and going to Brazil or from Brazil, they will stop off and rest in the trees and the bushes of this island, and the snakes are waiting there for them, and the venom has to work really quickly. And so when the bird doesn't see it, bam, the snake strikes. This island earned the nickname Snake Island because of how many snakes are there. This island has between 2,000 and 4,000 golden lancehead vipers. They're 0.5 meter long, okay? And here's the deal. For every square inch of a mile, you have 1 to 4 vipers. Not a place you want to go. Go to West Virginia. Don't go to this place. Okay? And it's difficult as it might seem to think about venom being that dangerous. I personally believe that the words and the type of words that we're talking about today are even more dangerous. Now, it's not going to kill you like that. It's not going to melt your skin. But it will start rotting you spiritually from the inside out. It is a spiritual cancer that will eat away at your life, your emotions, your relationships, your work, until you really don't have anything left. The title for today's sermon is Truer Words, and we're talking about untruthful words. Specifically, how we call people out, how we label people, categorize them, talk down to them, that's untrue, but also lying. Now, automatically when I say lying, some of you are like, no, I got that down. And some of you are like, no. Right? I mean, and I'm not talking about Schindler's List lying, like you're hiding Jewish people from Nazis in the basement. That's not the kind of lying. You know exactly what kind of lying I'm talking about. All of us do, including myself. We're talking about lying that is really, really bad. And again, I hear so many people like, well, I've got that under control. Okay, that's a lie. You know how I know you have a problem with lying? Because you are a Homo sapien. Okay, people, that's human being. You are a human. Okay? You will not have a problem lying when you're dead or when you're asleep, unconscious, not able to talk. You don't have a problem lying then. Every other time you have a problem lying, you have a problem being ungracious. Why? Because we are always drawn to ourself. And again, still, people say, I don't have a problem lying. Really? If lying is not a big deal, why is it out of the 613 commands that comprise the law in the Old Testament, God put lying in the top 10? Remember Moses went up and got the 2 tablets, he looked like Charlton Heston and came back down and broke them. There were 613 commands you had to keep if you wanted to keep the law perfectly. God said, lying is such a big deal that I'm going to put it in the top 10 because lying hurts relationships. In many cases, lying breaks relationships. So does talking ungraciously about people. It's like you got to ask yourself, why do you lie? Why do I lie? My son is like me. He's got ADHD. He's in the 7th grade. He's coming out of a phase of lying. He's still lying, though, and we're trying to help him with it. My wife is much better at it because she's a therapist, but I still try. Like the other morning, he just lied. Got to give him credit, but, we're trying, but, dude, really, stop it. He comes up, first thing in the morning, wakes up, can I play Xbox? Whenever Fortnite goes out, I will throw a party. Seriously, if I hear Battle Royale one more time, he's like, can I play and everything? I'm like, no, dude, you got chores. You got to clean your room. You got to do your laundry. You got to take a shower or 3 this morning because he's 7th grade now. God has added odor to everything, no matter what. And so I'm like, you got to do all these things. When you do these things, when you're done, come back and talk to me. Let's talk about video game time. I kid you not. I thought what I said was crystal clear. I really did. I could have typed it out for him. I could have tattooed it right here. 5 minutes later, I go downstairs. Homeboy is in front of the Xbox and the TV. He sees me. He gasps. and drops the controller. He's like, the TV just came on. I'm like, dude, never try to get a job at the CIA, Joel. He's not a good liar. Might as well just said a raccoon. He blames it on his sister. Well, maybe she did it. She did it while you were right here. Ninja Rachel. She did that. No. You see, I think we lie because we want to protect people, because maybe we want to avoid consequences. We don't want to get in trouble. We don't have to deal with somebody else. We want what we want, and we're not going to let anything get in the way. Maybe we want to hurt people. Maybe we're passive aggressive. Maybe we just don't care about people. But those are all the same reasons for why we end up talking poorly about people. And I think it comes back down to fear. We are afraid, and that's why we lie. But here's the deal, people. As I said before, lying will destroy you. Talking ungratefully about people will destroy you. And yes, even what you say in your car when you're by yourself counts. Trust me, I live in LA and have to drive on the 101. It definitely counts. I've come really close to losing my Christianity more than once last week. But how do we do that? How do we get past that? Because you will never be immune to the temptation to be unkind, ungracious, hurtful, and to lie. You will never be immune. So what do we do? There's a lot we can do, but I think that today we need to learn a couple of things that will help us remember who we are, remember how in the world we can stop lying. When we are faced with uncertainty and we don't know what to say, we're tempted. And so to do this, we're going to look at a book in the New Testament called 1 Peter. Actually, there are two books in the New Testament with Peter's name, 1 and 2 Peter, written by Jesus' lieutenant named Peter. He wrote this kind of like the mid-60s AD, like in the first century, near the end of his life before he was martyred and crucified upside down for his faith. You see, what was happening and what had been happening for years, a lot of Christians had been being persecuted, and they were suffering as a result of persecution from cult members, Roman soldiers, to some degree centurions, even the religious leaders and their own people of the day, like not the regular Jewish people, but the religious elite that still could not stand the idea of Jesus or that he even existed. And so they persecuted them, and Nero, the Roman emperor, may have been starting the very first wide persecution of Christians, and so he writes a letter to Christians everywhere, but specifically in Rome, because they are suffering. And he spends the first 3 chapters talking about holy living. Like, in the midst of suffering, in the midst of being accused of things you didn't do, live your lives in such a way where people cannot accuse you. You got to learn to understand that your faith and hope extends beyond your current circumstances. Your current circumstances, your position, whatever that is, it is not a reflection of God's love for you or lack thereof. It is what it is. And he's like, this is how we should live holy lives. Now, after he gets done with what we're going to go through, he's going to talk about suffering, but he wraps up this whole holy living idea with 3 verses that he actually quotes from Psalm 34 in his own words. And these 3 verses are going to help us understand what we can do when we feel upset, when we feel like we want to be unkind, when we are tempted to lie. So in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 10, Peter says, if you want to enjoy life and see many happy days, keep your tongue from speaking evil and your lips from telling lies. Now, as I said, he quotes Psalm 34 in this verse and the next 2, specifically Psalm 34, verses 12 through 16, written by David, as in King David, as in David and Goliath, when David, before he was king, when he was on the run from Saul, when he was living among the Philistines who were his enemies, he was being persecuted by his enemies, so he understands this. Okay? And these are his reflecting words, but they're inspired of God. And when Peter quotes this, if you want to enjoy life and see many happy days, he's not talking about your best life now. He's not. If you haven't figured out already, people, life is a roller coaster, right? Here on earth. It goes up and down and up and down and up and down. Sometimes you get stuck upside down for a little bit. Hopefully you don't fall out. But when he says this, happy days, he's talking about the new heavens and the new earth. He's talking about the next world. He's saying that our longing more than here should be in the next world, where we will get our reward. He says, if you really want to see that, keep your tongue from speaking evil and your lips from telling lies. The word evil here, it doesn't just mean evil. It means to lack morals, to lack ethics. It means to be lacking in wisdom. When he says, keep your lips from telling lies, the word lips, like it literally means seashore. Look at the person on your left. Like, that wasn't a suggestion. Look at the person on your left. Look at the person on your right. Each one of those people has a seashore. You have a seashore. Some seashores are bigger than others, right? That's your mouth. That's another word that they use to describe your mouth. And Peter's saying, keep things that are horrible from coming up out of there. Do not speak evil. Do not tell lies. Because the truth, that's what's important. The truth is absolute. Like, I believe that my definition of truth is whatever is real and accurate. Pretty simple. Like, if something's true, it's real and it's accurate. Period. And so, like, when we lie, we're not aligning with reality. When we lie, we're creating chaos. You see, all truth, I believe, originates from God. All truth is absolute truth. It never fails. I always hear people say, well, no, Caleb. Sometimes truth is subjective. No, it's not. Not at all. Data doesn't lie. Okay, so, like, think about it. 2 plus 2, when has it ever equaled 13? Right? You're like, well, no, this is my truth. No, you're talking about preference. There's a difference between preference and truth. I'll give you an example. My wife and I love to eat at California Pizza Kitchen. Don't know if you've ever eaten here. Do they have one here? Okay, I don't understand what you people are saying, but I'm guessing no. Hopefully you've eaten there sometime, or you'll be able to relate with what I'm saying. So my wife loves to get cauliflower pizza crust. She says it tastes like the real thing. That's her truth. And I tell her, get off the drugs. Do you know what cauliflower pizza crust tastes like? Cauliflower. It tastes like evil. Like, cauliflower is one of my enemies. The other one is Nickelback. And so she's like, no, Caleb, it tastes the same. No, it doesn't. That's preference. That's her own belief. That's not truth. Truth is absolute. And truth impacts your character, who you are, your integrity, what you do, and also impacts your faith. Like, I love Pastor Andy Stanley from North Point Church in Atlanta. His definition of character is the willingness to do what is right regardless of the cost. Dr. Henry Cloud, who's a psychologist and also a leadership expert, his definition of integrity is the ability to meet the demands of reality. Every day, when you wake up, do you have the ability and the willingness to meet the realities of today and its demands? And in this case, I think the truth aligns with that, because when we lie, we are not representing God. We are not speaking the words of Jesus. We are imitating the enemy, and we are creating chaos because we are trying to get something out there that is not reality, that is not true, and it hurts other people. It does more than that. It kills something inside of us, I think. It makes us worse. I love this quote from the philosopher Socrates. He says, false words are not only evil in themselves, but they infect the soul with evil. And guess what? This Greek philosopher was not the only person to say something like this. Jesus Christ did too. In Mark chapter 7, verse 21 through 23, when he says, from within, out of a person's heart, come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, wickedness, deceit, lustful desires, envy, slander, pride, and foolishness. All of these vile things come from within. They are what defiles you. So like greed, lying, sexual immorality, pride, those are symptoms. We've got to be dealt with, but there's something uglier inside of us. An insecurity that we haven't surrendered to Jesus yet. Something that's controlling us, a sinful insecurity that we have to stamp out, and we can't do it on our own. That's why we keep struggling with lying. And Peter's not done giving his advice yet. In verse 11, he says, turn away from evil and do good. Search for peace and work to maintain it. This two words is one word in the original language, turn away. It carries the idea of somebody swimming away from something bad, like a shark. Like you're swimming and you are using every muscle in your body to try to get away from it. And that's what Peter says you and I must do when it comes to saying evil things. And we should do good. And this word good right here, it literally means to the benefit of others. Adding value. Not just nice, kind things, but something where you make somebody's life better. And specifically through our words. Search for peace and work to maintain it. Literally, search for unity and harmony. That was Jesus' last prayer for us in John 17 before he was crucified. Remember? He prayed for you. And he prayed for me. And even if you don't identify as a Christian, he still prayed for you. That you would follow him. And for those of us who do, he says, Father, unite them that they may be one as you and I are one. How important is that? Again, especially in an election year when people are tempted to put politics and politicians over and above their faith in Jesus Christ. Or conform their faith to whatever version of politics that make them feel happy. I'm not making a political statement. I'm making a human statement. We have done that for all of eternity. And searching for peace, turning away from evil, doing good, not telling lies, saying good things, doesn't happen by accident. It never does. It happens through hard work, intentional hard work. Without intentionality, things die. Let me give you an example. My wife, our first year of marriage for Valentine's Day, got me not only the worst present I've ever received for Valentine's Day, it was the worst present I have ever received, period. Okay, some of you are judging me. Don't pull back, okay? Hear me out on this. Do not pull back on me, because I know some, especially the ladies, you're glaring at me right now. Trust me, you won't be in a minute, okay? This was not good. Okay, I opened up my Valentine's Day present. She got me a hermit crab. You seen those things? They have them in the middle of malls and like the kiosk, in the middle of the walkway. And the little, like, you paint the shell. She had them paint the shell with a heart that said, "Our love crab." Ew. Why don't you just plant a tree? Get a puppy. Don't get something that looks like it came from Thanos. That thing's ugly. Oh, it's seriously ugly. I don't even like reptiles, and I know a crab is not a reptile, but it's close. It even pinched her. And I said, Amy, we don't need a love crab. Can you take this back? But Caleb, that's hurtful. I know. We'll get past it. 2 days later, the thing was dead. I forgot to water it. I figured it had water in there. I wasn't going to stick my finger down in there. Amy came home. She's like, "You've let our love crab die." I'm like, stop. Do not equate our marriage to that. So we buried it in the backyard and talked about our marriage that night. It was fun. But without intentionality of taking care of a pet, of a human, or your character, your integrity, and your faith, it will die. Life requires intentionality. You cannot succeed by accident. Everything is a chain reaction. Even when you don't see yourself succeeding, it's still a chain reaction. Okay? Peter concludes here. We're going to stop here. He says, "The eyes of the Lord watch over those who do right, and his ears are open to their prayers. But the Lord turns his face against those who do evil." Literally, if you do what the New Living Translation says, do right, you have God's favor. If you don't, you don't. Except, I love how it translates, like this passage, like the NLT is like one of my favorite versions, if not my favorite. However, I don't like how it says, "The eyes of the Lord watch over those who do right." Because this same word, or those same three words, "who do right," could be righteous. The eyes of the Lord watch over those who are righteous. And I think this is in keeping with what Peter's talking about, holy living. That you can't be holy on your own. You can't be good on your own. You can do nice things, but you can't be good in terms of getting to God on your own good. But if you follow Jesus, you are righteous. You don't have to do anything. If you're not following Jesus, when you follow him, we believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross for your sins. He was buried. He was resurrected 3 days later. And when you follow him, the righteousness and innocence that he had is given to you so that you can have a perfect, unending relationship with God the Father. You are in the family. His righteousness has been imparted to you, and you carry it. Now, he still disciplines you as a son, but that righteousness allows you to follow Jesus, to obey, to not lie, and so on, not out of fear of what might happen, but out of love, because you're more devoted to Jesus than you are to your own desires or fear of consequences. Like my kids, they don't stop eating. They never have. To put a cap on here. No, I don't want you to throw up at 3 a.m. Okay, I've never struggled to feed my kids. Like, and when I say struggled, everybody's had financial problems, but I mean, I've never said, you know what, I don't feel like it, you're not going to eat for the next 2 days. I need a break. I feed my kids every day, not because I'm afraid somebody will call CPS on me, Child Protective Services, but because I love them. I take care of them when I don't feel like it. Because I'm obligated? No, out of devotion. Because I love them. See, you have righteousness. You don't have to follow Jesus out of obligation and obey out of obligation. You can do it because you love him more. Because you're already made righteous. And when you are confused about what to do, about what to say, you got to remember that when you follow Jesus, you already made your choice. You already made the choice that you would tell the truth, that you would treat people well. When you follow Jesus, whenever that was, whether it was yesterday or 50 years ago, when you followed him, that was the day that you made the choice to tell the truth, to treat people well, to forgive. Let me say it this way. When you are uncertain, when you're unsure of what to say, remember that your decision was already made. If you follow Jesus, you are righteous. You have his righteousness. If you follow Jesus, you made the decision to say good things, helpful things. You made the decision to forgive. You made the decision to come clean about websites you shouldn't be looking at. You made the decision not to get revenge. You made the decision to forgive, no matter how bad they hurt you. Forgiving doesn't always mean reconciling, but you have to forgive. You don't have a choice. You made the decision to tell the truth, to be honest, to have character and integrity. You made the decision to love your enemies, to not fire back on Facebook. Hint, hint. You made the decision not to trash those in authority over you, whether they are your boss or whoever. You made the decision to pray for people. You made the decision to encourage people. Those decisions were already made. When you're uncertain and unsure what to do, remember that righteousness has been given to you, and that means your decisions have been made. You got to remember that. Again, easier said than done, right? Because we need to evaluate before we say something. So real quick, there are 4 questions I want you to ask. 4 questions. If you ask these questions of yourself before you say something or type something, I think it'll help you put things in perspective. It might remind you that that decision is the Lord's, not yours. Are my words true and gracious? Who might my words help or hurt? How do my words reflect Jesus? And what will my words require me to do? If you ask yourself these 4 questions, are my words true and gracious? Will they help people? Are they going to add value? Are they just going to rip people down? Am I going to feel good for like 15 seconds and then walk away in bitterness or feel guilty? How do they reflect Jesus? Am I making Jesus look good or worse? Man, I want to fire back at that person on Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. Here's the deal. No great conflicts have ever been solved on social media. That's all I have to say. What will my words require me to do? These will help you evaluate what you want to say, but they'll also remind you that you made that decision a long time ago. You, as a follower of Jesus, bear his righteousness already. And you follow Jesus out of love, first and foremost. I remember first year that Amy and I got married. I remember our first fight when we got married. You know why I remember it? I don't remember what we were fighting about. I remember it because I remember what I said in the middle of the fight. And then the fight became about what I said. Want to know what I said? Arguing. And what I said, it was not true or gracious. Didn't help her. Didn't reflect Jesus. And dude, I was held accountable. Lots of toilet scrubbing that night. I mean, a lot of mopping. You know what I said? Just right in the middle of the argument. Shots fired. I said, "You're acting just like your mother." Look, once you fire those bullets out of the gun, you can't suck them back in. They are gone. And right after I said it, I'm like, "Oh." She's like, "What did you say?" I'm like, "I don't know." "What did you hear?" "I heard somebody ran behind the car." You see, when you're unsure of what to say, remember that your decision, it was already made. I'm going to close with this. I don't like to fly. I really don't. I'm not afraid of dying. I figure if I crash, it's a good way to go. Also, you lose cabin pressure, so you pass out. It's like going to bed. The reason why I don't like flying is because of people. And I know we're supposed to love people, blah, blah. People are nasty on airplanes. Like 6 months ago, this lady sitting next to me, we take off, cruising altitude. Homegirl takes off her socks and shoes and starts clipping her toenails right there. I usually don't say anything because I'm not that much of a jerk, but today was different. I looked at her, I said, "Really?" She said, "Is this bothering you?" I said, "Well, your toenail is on my shoe." She said, "Well, I guess I could clip them when I get home tonight." I said, "Let's go with that plan." I'm a big fan. As a matter of fact, I clip my toenails at home at nighttime by myself. It's worked for me my whole life. I recommend it. Okay, so, I mean, seriously, whatever. So I'm sitting down on this one plane not too long ago, and this guy comes and sits down next to me. I'm reading my Bible, have it out, have the tray down. We haven't taken off yet. He looks at me. He's like, "What are you, a Christian?" And I'm like, "Ugh. Just want to read the Bible and go to sleep." And now we got homeboys sitting next to me, and I'm like, it's meh. And I just looked at him and I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "Well, you know what? Answer me this question. If your God is so loving, why is it in the Old Testament he tells his people in a couple passages to go into towns and kill the men, women, and children? What do you think about that? Defend that. What do you think about that?" So I started to think. And I thought to myself, well, I could just start talking, but that never ends well. I could tell him about biblical metaphor, but he doesn't care because he wants to make a point. Or I just tell him I don't care. So I just looked at him. I just said, "What?" He's like, "What do you think of it?" I said, "I don't." And we're back to reading. He's like, "What do you mean you don't think about it? Defend that." I said, "Why do I have to defend it? I don't have to defend it. I'm not going to." He's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Because I didn't become a Christian because of those passages. And those passages, by the way, are metaphor. But I didn't become a Christian because of those passages. You know why I became a Christian? Because a Jewish carpenter died on the cross and resurrected. That's why I became a Christian. And I believe in the New Testament because he resurrected. I'm going with what he said. I believe in the Old Testament because he did. I said, now let me ask you a question. Are you really asking about God killing children? Are you wondering, does God really love me and people? And he paused and he said, I guess that's what I'm asking. And we spent the rest of the time talking about Jesus and a relationship with him. Here's the thing. If I would have just started talking, it wouldn't have been good. Trust me, I experienced that 3 weeks ago. I'm not always on like that. The thing is that when we decide we realize that our decisions have already been made to tell the truth. And when we ask ourselves and evaluate our questions, we will tell truth. We will speak truth. We will make the world a better place. We will reflect God well. Open and shut.